grew up in Los Angeles, California, in a middle-income family, and the first of a family to go to college. Started working when I was about 13 or 14, and the reason I started working is I wanted to go away to college. I had this fantasy life way back then, that there was a world out there that I wanted to see and people I wanted to touch. My years in high school were a combination, I think, of interest in politics and in golf. I visioned myself as a professional golfer at one time. I only lacked talent and success. So it probably was the reason I chose to go to UC Riverside so I could play on the golf team there. I had a sense, and during the time I was in high school, was also when JFK was shot and killed. And so he, I think, inspired an entire generation to try to do something a little better. And I went to a school, UC Riverside, that was considered the Swarthmore of the West. There is a Swarthmore probably in every state, but this one was the one in California. And I came alive. I loved the intellectual life of a small liberal arts school. Was a radio commentator. I had a radio show in the morning and a basketball and I was a basketball play-by-play announcer for our team, and made very, very good friends, and found that with the tutelage of really interested and low-key professors outside of a big city, I blossomed. I think the biggest step in my life was when I was offered an opportunity to go to England for my last year of college. And I went to Birmingham University at a time when there was a lot of ferment on campuses. You may have remembered the revolution that was happening in Paris, at the LSE, London School of Economics, and yes, at Birmingham as well. There was a sit-in at that time. And for me, it was a chance to see a floor of social services that I never had been exposed to before. I left for England with a sense I wanted to be a lawyer, and while I was there, I actually wanted to be a teacher. I felt that when I came back, I wanted to help the young people, 4th and 5th graders, get a good start. And part of it was I saw in England the fact that there was a floor for education, there was a floor for housing, there was a floor for food, there was a floor for medicine, and a floor for law at that time. Those were not things that were privileges for people. They didn't have to earn them. They were considered part of society. Unfortunately, some of that has eroded with budget crunches, but much of it still remains. My roommate, for example, I will never forget his name. His name is Pim Grimble. And Pim, if you ever see this on the internet, please say hello to me. Pim came from a working class family in Croydon in London, and I saw through his eyes the effect of a grant system that permitted the university students to have economic support while they were studying, which I never had in school when I was at UC Riverside. I was working 30 hours a week while I went there. So it was an opportunity to both see the politics that were going on, the social structure, and a chance to travel. And it's one of the reasons I think that I'd like to see more of our young people get a chance to travel early, because I think it helps us pretty much understand ourselves. When I came back to the United States, I had my first dose of reality, and that was I walked into the University of Southern California after traveling all summer, and I had a beard. I can actually send you a picture. I used it yesterday of what I looked like when I was 22. Very much the same as right now, with a long beard, dark hair, and I wanted to apply to be a teacher in the inner city. And they said, well, they looked at my grades. I was a pretty good student. And they said, that would be great, except we have a problem. And I said, what was it? And they said, facial hair. And they did not want their teachers having beards at that time. So I was faced with the first homecoming of the States, where I had to decide whether I was going to be me with my beard, or I was going to shave it so I could be of service. And I took the choice of shaving the beard. And I think I had a tear for every little facial hair that went down the drain, because that was more than my beard I was shaving. I was back, and I was facing cultural shock. I then had forgotten that I still had an application out at UCLA Law School. I had forgotten to withdraw it, and I received a telegram that said, "You're admitted, but we don't have your final transcripts." Well, they didn't have them because I hadn't sent them, and I had my second big pressure in a very short period of time because I wanted to teach, and everyone said, well, you could always teach, but you don't always get into a top-ranked school like UCLA School of Law. I accepted, and I went into law school. That was probably the first year was the worst year of my life. I found law school didn't have the intellectual fervor and stimulation that I'd had at either Riverside or the University of Birmingham. I didn't have a tutor, as I'd had at both universities, who actually took a lot of care toward the students on an individual basis. And I found the competition among the students to be very off-putting. I found that the subject matter was great, the professors were very good, but I was somewhat put off by the Darwinian kind of eat what you kill attitude at the law school. Somehow I got through almost my first year when there was an event on May 5th, 1969. You may recall on the 4th of May was Kent State. I don't know if it was before any of your time, but it was a huge event. And at UCLA there were riots, and I was studying for moot court in the library, and I couldn't study because there were helicopters outside, because the Metro Squad of the LA police was having formation with the army of students armed with books. And I found later there were some people there with rocks and some other weapons. But in any event, I went out to see what was happening, and I saw bedlam. Some students threw rock. The police went after the students. There was a number of people beat up. I was not hurt, but I was motivated to volunteer for the legal defense fund, legal defense, to try to get these jailed students. There were like 100 students who needed some help. And for the first time in law school, I felt some passion that I actually maybe could do a difference.